We'll let the candidates introduce themselves to you first. Each will have 5 minutes to introduce themselves. And candidates, if you don't mind, if you could include sort of your platform, why you're running for office, what you feel qualifies you to be the best candidate for the office of City Council President. Again, 5 minutes to do that. Jackie won the toss, so she will go first, and Bruce will go second. And for our questions, we'll start with Bruce. So Jackie, 5 minutes to introduce yourself.
Good evening. Thanks to everybody for coming tonight. Thanks to the Homewood Star. Thanks to the mayor. Particularly thanks to everybody in this room that voted to support the 2001 ad valorem tax campaign. Without that campaign, we wouldn't be in this room tonight. That's why we have this wonderful facility we now call Rosewood Hall. I just have a little bit of time to introduce myself to you, those of you who don't know me, on a personal level. And then I need to answer for you the most legitimate question why you're here tonight. Why should you vote for me for the next City Council President of Homewood? I received 12 years of public education in the state of Mississippi. Then I transplanted to Alabama. I've been here for 25 years. I've maintained a professional nursing license for 27 years. During that time, I've worked in many capacities in the health field, from cost containment to staff nursing to clinic supervisor. I've enjoyed all of it, and now I work on a part-time basis, which allows me time to go ahead and pursue what I like doing for the city. I serve in many volunteer positions in the Autism Society of Alabama, and I also served in the Junior League of 1993 till present, and during that time I was on the Community Research Focus and Development Boards. The best part about me is I have two incredible sons. One is a 2008 graduate of Homewood High School. Now he attends Glenwood, which is a residential facility for young adults with autism located within Birmingham. And it's a wonderful place for him. We had a great experience in the Homewood school system. The second one is a rising 10th grader, 16-year-old Jackson. He's a little bit more excited about football starting than he is about school starting, but we are attending both. So, oh, and I have to say, go Patriots. Can't leave that out. Why the council presidency for me? 12 of the 25 years I've lived in Homewood, I've served on this council, representing Ward 5 with another person in the other seat. During that time, I've chaired 3 of the 5 committees that we utilize up here to help make determinations and decisions about the problems you bring to us weekly. I've also served as the president pro temp under 2 council presidents. At least one of them is in the room tonight, and I don't think the other is here, but that is Ms. Holiday, who's still the president at this time, and I'm serving under her. All of this experience has provided me with the knowledge that I feel like I need to go ahead and move forward to lead the city of Homewood. The president of the city council, it's a multi-dimensional job. It's bigger than one board, it's bigger than one business, it's bigger than one project that's been proposed before us. The president of the city council must be able to build consensus among various groups of people with different priorities and focus everybody towards one goal, and that is to maintain the high quality of life that we have in the city we live in today. And even better, you have to do it within a financial structure that we can afford to do it within. The city and the school system are intricately linked. Years ago, 1996, the city council then decided to go ahead and donate 1 cent of its sales tax revenue to the city schools. The city schools are proration sensitive, and this was to help in that time. That has continued since that time. I have supported it for all the years I've been in office and before that, and my commitment is to continue to do that. And there's a lot of reasons, but the most important is because my personal belief is the future of tomorrow is in the education we can provide today to all of your children as well as mine and all the other children that attend the Homewood schools. During that time, I've been able to work with Dr. Newton, I see here tonight, and probably some other board members I'm not seeing. When we built the new middle school, I served as a liaison from the city to the ad valorem tax campaign in 2001. We were successful. We were able to use that money to build a new middle school. It opened in 2005. I served on that project from the beginning when we did site selection to its completion in 2005. And between the city and the school board, we were able to deliver an incredible LEED certified middle school, which one of my children had the pleasure of attending. Homewood is a strong and vibrant community. We're a leader for other communities. When I work with other leaders in other municipalities, they always say to me they're envious of Homewood. Some of the things we've done in the paths we've taken. Public safety, strong financial policies, support of our schools, business development and promotion, those are all things I've had experience with for 12 years. They're all things I've worked strongly to support. The most walkable city in Alabama, which is Homewood, is also one of the best cities for offering amenities to its citizens. And I feel like as we move forward, that should be our focus. Since 2000, which was the year I came into office, with the help of many other council people and different council presidents, this is what Homewood has gained. A new middle school, this new city hall, new greenways, new sidewalks, parks, one we're in the process of finishing now over in West Homewood.
Ms. Langlow, sorry to interrupt. I should have warned you earlier. Our timekeeper here will give you a 10-second clue. That's my fault for not telling you ahead of time.
I'm sorry.
I'll give you 20 seconds to wrap up. Sorry.
Okay, so, sorry. Would you give me the warning? Urban revitalization districts, and many other things that have helped promote business in Homewood. So I will wrap it up there and say I don't want to run over my warning and say, I say to you tonight, let's not stop where we are now. Let's keep going. Your vote for me on August 28th allows me to do that. It allows me the opportunity to pursue things that will continue to make the city of Homewood the strong community we all love and live in. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Limbaugh, and interestingly, when I start telling you about who and what I am, tomorrow I'm 60. And hopefully those who have said that 60 is the new 45 are absolutely accurate. So just one thing. Let me go through some I ams, some explanations of who I am as quickly as possible if I can. I'm a Christian. I'm the chair of the administrative board at Trinity Methodist Church. I'm a husband. I'm very blessed that my wife Debbie is sitting down here on the 5th row. And I'm a father of 6, a grandfather of 5, soon to be 6 in October, 3 of whom are Homewood residents. So let me pause there just a second. What's happening with Homewood now and what's happening with Homewood 20 years from now is vital to me because it's vital to my children and my grandchildren. The council appointed me to the school board in 2002. I served 2 5-year terms. That's the maximum anyone's allowed to serve. During that time, as Ms. Langlow said, we built a $24 million middle school, and today I get to absolutely brag on the person that did the vast majority of that work, and that's Jody Newton. She really did. But we were part of that. We were part of heading a 2006 strategic plan. We were part of hiring Dr. Bill Cleveland to be the current school board superintendent, and I think everyone in this room would agree that he's doing an absolutely outstanding job. For 23 years now, I've been either the partial or the sole owner of Limbaugh Toyota. What does that mean? Well, last year we had $59 million in revenue. The city has a budget in the mid to high 30s, you know, so dealing with serious dollars is not a concern or a scare. As a matter of fact, the biggest challenge of this responsibility is the 81 employees. I mean, we've got key managers in our store have been with us anywhere from 16 to 23 years. So these are people that are very loyal to our family and myself as an individual. I'm fortunate enough to be the recipient of several of our industry's awards. The 2011 Time Magazine Alabama Dealer of the Year happened to be myself. President's Award with Toyota, which is a very high honor, and we received that in 2011. The only contributor to my campaign is me. No one else has given a penny to our campaign except myself. And that's important to me because I can stand here and say to you that I have no commitments or obligations to any one individual or any group. Just myself. And lastly, I'm going to tell you what I'm not. I'm not a politician. You know, I committed to this a little over a month ago. First time I talked with my wife about it, she said no. Second time she said probably not. The third time after she had watched Bush 41 on HBO, she said, you know, if they could serve a nation, you can serve a community. And so that meant a great deal to me. And so that's really why I'm here. I'm here because I love Homewood. I'm here because I've been here for 40 years, and I know that I can serve this community. Homewood is good. I believe that we can be better. Let's talk about platforms for just a minute. We've had the opportunity to visit with some great neighborhood associations, both of us. We spent some time with the Lakeshore Neighborhood Association. It occurred to me while we were with these fine folks that if Homewood had the equivalent of about 15 neighborhood associations like that one, where representatives could meet with the individual council people and the council president 4 to 6 times a year and get the kind of feedback that those groups could provide, prioritize their needs and wants. I realize you can't stand up here and promise that you can accomplish everything, but I know you can stand up here and promise that you'll listen. And I think that would be a great opportunity to do that. Joe Stevens talked about it today and throughout his campaign. The reality is we have somewhere between 25 and 30 vacancies on the 10 boards, the 10 commissions that are in Homewood. And I know that there are 25 to 30 citizens that would happily and gladly serve on those. I think it's an obligation for each ward council member to find those individuals, whomever they are, within their particular ward. There are qualified individuals that can do that. I think we need a new strategic plan in Homewood for the government. And with that, the sign is gone up. We'll talk more about it later. Thank you.
Well, thank you both. We'll move to the Q&A part now. I'll ask the questions, and Mr. Limbaugh, will start with you to answer. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to give us the answer to the question. Again, our timepiece will be right around. We'll give you a 10-second warning ahead of time. Also, we'd ask from here on out, until we're finished, if we can hold our applause to the end. That way we will sort of get to as many questions as possible. With that, we'll go to question 1. Again, these are all questions that were submitted to the Homewood Star. As I said before, we try to sort of condense them into categories that we hope will touch on most of the issues that are important. If we don't, we apologize. We'll try to do our best in the time allotted. The headline for question 1 is communication. Several residents have expressed some concerns about communication practices with city government, whether it involves transparency in the issues and decisions, engaging the community as a whole. Were you to be elected, how will you engage the community so their voices are heard? What do you think a resident is entitled to be heard respectfully on any issue before a commission or the council, if you were to share it? Here's your 2 minutes.
Well, I think that's a good question. Again, I'll go back to what I just said a minute ago about the neighborhood associations. I think there's realistically, there's probably 3 or 4 neighborhood associations that are active in Homewood at this point. If every ward had multiple associations, we would have the opportunity for that communication. And again, I think it wouldn't be a requirement. I think it'd be a mandate that council individuals have regularly scheduled meetings with representatives of those groups. It could just as easily be a group from Brookhaven, the retirement area. I think we need communication in that way. Secondly, I think we have a real opportunity in the 21st century to collect emails, to collect email addresses. And again, I think the council can communicate through that 21st century way, not exclusively, but certainly one way to communicate. And I think that's an opportunity. One of the candidates was saying today that in her efforts, she's already collected 400 email addresses. Well, you know, that's what fits this century. That's what fits this mode of communication for many people. And I think there's an opportunity to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Limbaugh. Ms. Langlow, to you.
I'm going to ask you to repeat part of the question. Did you say the last part? Maybe you should repeat the whole thing. Okay.
Some folks have expressed concern about communication practices within or with city government and citizens, whether it's transparency or decisions being made about the community as a whole. How would you engage the community so that their voices are included and heard respectfully? What practices would you use to ensure anyone who wants to be heard can be?
Okay. First of all, I'm happy to report that the City of Homewood meets all the legal requirements for publications and notifications that Alabama requires for us. Not only that, we go above and beyond that. And the best way for us to get information from the public is for you to attend the public hearings when they're published and when you know the dates and you come and give your feedback. Many weeks we go by and we don't hear anything out of anyone, and then an issue comes up and that's when we see a room like we see tonight. But that is not very often in the City Council chambers. So to stay involved. I think the idea of neighborhood associations, which already exist, and to include them is a good thing. And as far as going into your wards and creating email contact lists, tweeters, that sort of thing, I think we're all doing it. And I think it's our responsibility to collect those things and then in turn use those things to contact the public. If you've got somebody in your neighborhood who's really active, get them started and get them to develop you an association if you don't have one.
In your opinion, do you think the structure of city management should change, whether minor or major? If so, how? Specifically, and we've got several questions about this, do you think we either need a city manager or a smaller council?
No and no. Let's, as long as we have an effective, focused, hardworking mayor, which we do have at this point, and I really believe that, then we don't need that expense for a city manager. I mean, we've got a city manager in our mayor. We don't need a city manager. And I think that just from what we've been able to ascertain talking with folks, I don't think there's a lot of interest out there in Homewood at this point in a city manager. I don't think it's necessary. The other part of the question was?
Is there any major or minor changes that need to be made to the way city government is managed or run?
Well, I mean, I think there's always room for improvement regardless of what it is. And you're going to say, well, what is the room? I've been seeking political office for a month. I'm not ready to have an answer for that. And Mayor Scott is grinning very bigly in the back right there, and I agree. The reality is, as I've said, we're doing a lot of things right. There's some other things I think we can improve. Thank you.
Okay, having served on the council for 12 years and having had a ward mate during all the 12 years I've served, no, I do not think we need a smaller council. It has been very helpful to me to have a partner in meeting the needs of our ward and then getting those needs expressed across the community, because we have to work with from 5 to 1 all the way across. So, for my opinion, no, I do not think we need one. And the other part of the question?
Any changes to the structure of city government, major or minor?
I don't see any changes that are necessary in the structure of our government at this time. However, this has been brought up at a previous debate too, and I think it revolves around the question of a city manager. And as long as our mayor and our city council continue to deliver balanced budgets and surpluses every year, I'm not sure what benefit we would get from a city manager. However, the city council does have the right to go ahead and move forward to look at the possibility of hiring a city manager if that situation were ever to come into place. Of course, the scope of work would have to be designed, and then the person would have to be set up on a job and that sort of thing. But right now, for the government that we run and the way the city of Homewood is run, I think our mayor's doing a fine job, and I think your council's doing a fine job too.
All right, Ms. Langlow, if you want to stay there for our next question. This has to do with Sanford, which of course was a hot topic about a year and a half ago. And thinking about the growth and development of Sanford University over a period of years, here's a couple of questions. I'll be happy to repeat them if we need to, about the relationship between the university, and really you could generalize it to any large commercial entity, but let's talk about Sanford and the adjacent property owners. First, are the current buffer requirements along the boundaries of the campus there adequate to protect the values of the existing nearby homes? Second, is the process now in place to regulate Sanford's future growth and development adequate enough to protect those property values in the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years? And I know that we're covering the story, they have entered into some agreements about what they will and won't do in the next couple of years. You may want to mention that as well.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to say Sanford is an asset to this community. The Sanford students and all the personnel at Sanford, they come and they shop in our community. They dump thousands and thousands of dollars into our community, and they're really an asset to us. But like any asset, it has to be managed, and it can't be left alone. So Sanford is a good thing for the city, and even better now that we're working in partnership with them. When the last issue came up that you were speaking of that you covered, and Sanford actually was trying to get their students out of neighborhood housing, put them in dormitories on their campus. Thus, they needed to have additional parking down near Lakeshore so that they could have these people to park, okay? When that issue came up, there was a lot of discussion around it. Fortunately, we were able to go ahead and identify a liaison for Sanford, Dr. Sarah Latham, who is fantastic. She worked with the neighborhoods, she worked with the city council, and she represented Sanford very well, and I feel like we made a lot of good ground. At that time, whoever, Mr. Limbaugh or myself is the city council president, well, for 7 years, you're not going to have to answer this question because they have signed a contract that for 7 years, they will not be doing development on anything anything outside of their property. So that pretty much sets that to rest for now. And they've also expressed they do not want an entrance or an exit onto Salter Road exclusively. So as far as the buffer requirements go for Sanford, when the buffer requirements, when they are coming to us and they are talking about buffer requirements, what the city council has always done is we have proffered and tried to increase buffers beyond what is required, and we have been very successful in doing that in the past. So with our proffering and working, I think if you live there and you don't want anything built, you will never have a big enough buffer. Okay, but I think with what we do, asking them to proffer more, to plant certain types of trees that grow faster and provide more density, that it's been a good thing, and we've been able to address some of those situations.
Thank you. Mr. Limbaugh, to you, would you like to repeat any of the questions? Okay. The relationship between Sanford and the city, the two specific questions are the current buffer requirements along the boundaries of campus adequate to protect home values of the nearby homes? And second, is the process now in place to regulate future growth? And if elected, would you do anything to alter the course of the relationship between Sanford and the city?
Well, I understand that it's a 7-year agreement at this point, and we're, what, into the second or third year of that? So anyway, it's fairly early in that.
Actually, we're just in the first.
Okay, in the first year. So it is fairly early into that. I recently was at a meeting with Dr. Westmoreland, who's the president of Sanford, and I said to him, I said, you know, Andy, I want to have this conversation with you. I genuinely don't think the magnolia trees along Salter Road are adequate for the kind of buffer that we're looking for. He smiled and said, well, that's certainly something to discuss. I think it needs additional discussion without question. I would say to you that and I keep going back to school board because that's where I have 10 years experience. The school board and Sanford and Lakeshore were in negotiations to try to share the track, and we were not able to do that. And I would say to you that any relationship has to be a true win-win. So I think you have to get in there, get involved, find out what the legalities are, and really determine what a win for our community is. One of the last speeches that Dr. Courts ever gave was to the Birmingham Rotary Club, and he talked about his regrets. And he said, one of the regrets I truly have is that Homewood and Sanford didn't have a better relationship in my term as president of Sanford. I think from our end we have some work to do on that, and certainly we need to do that.
All right, Mr. Limbaugh, if you would remain up there, the next question is about schools. It's a relatively short answer probably, so if you want to expound upon the general issue of schools and their importance to the community, you're welcome to do that in the 2 minutes you have. The specific question, would you pledge tonight to continue or to support without change Ordinance 1913 that ensures that dedicated funding source for Homewood schools?
Absolutely. There are never any circumstances where that money should be capped or divided or limited in any way. And having a sense that that might transpire, I brought a copy of Ordinance 1913. Again, it was passed in 1996. There's 2 sentences in here that I think all of us need to hear and ponder. And in Section 6, it said that none of the proceeds of any of the additional tax as herein levied upon under the provisions of this ordinance or as otherwise hereinafter amended shall be or as otherwise hereinafter amended. So that's forever. Okay, shall be used for or authorized to be used by the City of Homewood for any municipal purposes whatsoever except for educational purposes. It is the specific intent of the City Council by the adoption of this ordinance that all proceeds from the tax levied and collected shall be used exclusively to supplement the funds of the Homewood Board of Education for the development, maintenance, and support of the Homewood school system. There's no wiggle room in those statements in my best judgment.
I think I addressed this question in my initial statements, but I certainly would be glad to answer it again. Yes, I'm committed to continuing on, and the pledge to the 1 cent tax has always have been going to the school systems. And Mr. Limbaugh has provided you with the ordinance and read to that from you, and so it's clear as he said there's no wiggle room. I don't think there's anybody asking for any wiggle room. Not the 12 years I've been on the council. It's been discussed one time, and that was under a different mayor. That was in 2005. The years since then that I've served, it's never even been discussed. But I would like to go one step further and say, with the 1 cent being dedicated, The best thing we can do is continue to bring businesses to Homewood that will make the 1 cent more than it is. The city gives them about $7 million a year, sometimes more, okay, off of the 1 cent. With the new Target development that we are going to be opening up, hopefully into the spring, you're looking at about a $40 million a year income. Over 10 years, the school board itself, the school system, will get an additional $6 million off of that development alone. So while I say I'm supporting your 1 cent, you can count on me for that, but you can also count on me to work to bring a business to Homewood that continues to funnel money into that school as well as money into this city so we can maintain what we need as far as public safety goes.
All right, if you will stay up there for our next question, it has to do with taxes. We're trying to sort of follow progression here. In your mind, would there be any reason or cause, and what would it be if the answer is yes, to justify any increase in sales tax or an additional sales tax? How would you go about increasing it? In other words, what process would you use to do that if you decided that was needed? So would it ever be needed? If so, why? And then how would you do it?
I can't predict what would ever be needed. I've always tried to stay away from words like never and ever, but I will try to answer your question. At this time, I don't think we need to have any increase in our sales tax. This council and this mayor have committed to live with what we have set for ourselves. We have done that and delivered budgets where we've had surpluses in the years. We've done that by committing the 1 cent to the schools, which is, say, an additional $7 million that goes out. And then to run our capital fund, we have a 1/4 cent. And then to run our general operating budget, we have 1 3/4 cents. That's how we make payroll. That's how we keep the city up and running. We have lived within that. This mayor is committed to live within that. I, as your council president, will be committed to live within that. And so I cannot see us needing to raise your sales tax.
You know, in business, it's pretty simple. If your revenues don't exceed your expenses, then you're not going to have a business at some point. I think the city government is similar in that respect. Whatever the revenues are, whatever we know that we can count upon, then that's, and I realize that's a function of the mayor's office, and I respect that. But, you know, you've got limited options, sales tax, ad valorem tax, and really, I agree with Ms. Langlow. I don't want to stand up here and say one would be more desirable than the other. The desirability factor is to operate within the income that you know that you've got coming for a consistent standpoint. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Limbaugh, we'll start with you on this next question, a relatively hot topic of late, that is the rec center plans and renovation. In your estimation, what are the options the council may have moving forward? And I know this is, it's in Finance Committee right now being discussed. But from your personal opinion, what are the best options the council has to pay for the rec center? Do you feel that amount is reasonable to award to the Parks and Rec Board when there may be other capital projects that need funding as well?
Well, a good question. I would say to you that the rec center, we look at that decision as we look at any decision. First, is there a need for the rec center? As I've talked with others around the city of Homewood, I think there's a pretty strong consensus that yes, there is a need. Do the citizens of Homewood want a rec center? You know, that's a little bit fuzzier, but I think, again, from what I've been able to ascertain, more want it than don't want it, and so therefore the answer to that is positive. The next question becomes, how do we afford that? And Finance Committee rolled that over last night, so we still haven't seen any of the details on that. You know, I would tell you early on with the middle school, we looked at what the financing would be like and how it would fit our budget, and it was an easy decision to make. Some experts somewhere, somehow, can share with us how that's going to be funded, and I look forward to that information. I think many of us look forward to that information. As far as, are there any other capital projects that are more important? I certainly think you know, a new police station is something that needs to be discussed. You know, our folks are operating in a building built, I was in it recently, built in the 40s, I think, and, you know, we certainly need something more modern than that. I mean, our police officers deserve something more modern than that. And, you know, that's the first project. Again, I would look to the neighborhoods to talk about needs and priorities. Thank you.
I do support the new rec center. I support the new rec center because over the 12 years I've been here, I realized the quote new rec center is really getting around to finishing part of our strategic plan from 2000 to 2008. The rec center was on that. It didn't get done, okay? So this didn't just come up overnight. It's been talked about for several years. And so I support the new rec center. The new rec center has turned in a budget into what they would like to have to be able to give the citizens of Homewood. The numbers are huge, people that attend the rec center now, and the old facility is not able to accommodate the people or the needs that the people in Homewood want anymore. Having said that, it has to be paid for. There's no doubt. It has to be paid for. That has to be decided before it's built, okay? There are different ways that we'll go about looking at this. It's in the Finance Committee now, and I, like Mr. Limbaugh, and have worked with Chief Robertson on the police station. That was also a part of our strategic plan from 2000 to 2008. Some things didn't get finished because projects take longer than you think before you can start another one and enable that one to get to action. So those are two things that have to be looked at. When we look at this, we have to decide. There are other capital projects that must go on. Fire trucks, police cars, things like that. Those things, our rolling stock has to go on while we work to provide amenities. So how do we do that? We look at our debt obligation against do we need to borrow, what should we borrow, and what can we fund ourselves. We have not gotten to that stage yet, but I'm sure it will be a lively discussion. I hope all of you will attend. That will be in the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Ms. Langlow. If you'll stay up there, we'll pivot just very slightly from that into what you both, I think you both have answered part of this next question, but if you want to expound, you'll have 2 minutes to do so. In your opinion, what are the next major capital projects beyond the possible rec center that need to be done in the city? And specifically, there's a lot of talk about perhaps selling the current police headquarters and jail and building a new one. What's your opinion on that idea?
Well, I have some pretty strong feelings on that, having been part of that strategic plan I've spoken of, that it just didn't get finished. And so I've talked to the Chief Robertson, since he's been here numerous times about this, and it needs to happen. It needs to happen for many reasons. The jail needs to be moved. Our court system needs to be moved. It needs to happen for the benefit of our employees. It needs to happen for the benefit of the downtown redevelopment, okay? Because that is sort of the one last piece we didn't get to finish, would be moving that facility to another area. And I do think that Homewood owns enough property that there are options for us to look at, that things can be moved. We may not have to purchase property within the city, that those things can be relocated. I'm not certain of that, but we certainly have properties we can take a look at. So I feel like that is very important, and if you're asking me to separate the rec center and the police station, there's no doubt in my mind that public safety always comes first and amenity second.
Any other capital projects beyond those two that you see as gaping holes that need to be filled? I
don't see any gaping holes, because one that most people aren't aware of, we were able to take care of, and that was our city shop. And when you talk about people working in not good conditions, the people that keep your police cars and your fire trucks going for years worked outside when it was raining, when it was snowing, when it was 100 degrees, and they did that for years and years until we took it into the strategic plan and put the shop in place. So the new city hall is here. There are many, the senior center is there. We're working on park and recs. Our greenways are one of the capital projects we currently are working towards. It's still in the mix. That will continue forward. So I can't think of any other gaping holes today that have been identified to me, either by the mayor's office, his staff, or any citizen.
Thank you, Ms. Langlow. Mr. Limbaugh, same question to you. I know you started to talk about capital projects. If you want to specifically talk about the idea of selling the current police property and building another one, and anything else you think that we could be?
Sure. Again, without being overly repetitive, we need an updated and current strategic plan that is going to dictate which capital projects and may even influence which priorities. Having said that, I don't think there's any question. None of us would, Ms. Langlow or I, neither one are going to debate the need for a new police center, Chief. We're in agreement on that. We got to find a way to pay for that, and I understand that. And perhaps utilizing existing property is the way to go. You're always in a fortunate situation if you have more property than the need for that property, and I think that pretty well describes where Homewood is right now. As far as other capital projects are concerned, I'm really not aware of any. I haven't heard any discussions in visiting with people. I do think a part of that strategic plan is not leaving what goes where to chance, if that communicates well. I think we dictate, okay, if we're going to have this center right here, then we're going to be concerned about putting apartments very close to that, as one example, and then some other things as well. Thank you.
So, Mr. Limbaugh, thank you. We'll stay up here for our next question. Turning to the Green Springs corridor, regarding areas like the Green Springs Highway area, we've had several questions asking about balancing the need to bring in new businesses for those that have closed, like Mazers, like the satellite courthouse and things like that, with the need to continue to stay in line with some of the GERD ordinances to protect the kind of businesses that you want to attract to the area. So if you could speak to perhaps the need to balance new tax revenue, attracting new businesses to that corridor, with the need to make sure it's the kind that falls in line with the current city ordinances.
Thank you, absolutely. Green Springs concerns me. Green Springs concerns me because I look at Green Springs and I look at where it was as a child and a teenager, and I see a degree of degradation. You can get in your car, you can drive over to Roebuck, you can drive up and down certain areas, and frankly, folks, it doesn't look very different from how Green Springs looks right now. Again, there needs to be planning over there. I'm not going to stand here and tell you good folks that I know what that plan needs to be. What I'm going to do is say, my father taught me a number of years in business. He said 3 simple words. He said, seek expert advice. There are experts that know how to handle a situation like that. They may or may not be in Homewood. They may or may not even be in Birmingham. But we can appeal to those folks. I'm not talking about spending a ton of money. I'm talking about reaching out to those that have dealt with situations like this before. And we can do better than what we've got on Green Springs right now. I'm going to tell you all, I've got a son-in-law that has told his wife, I don't want you over on Green Springs after dark. Now, having made that statement, I said it to the Lakeshore Neighborhood Association, and one of the fine ladies over there said 4 words. She said, don't take that chance. And I thought, you know, this is others that are feeling what I'm hearing as well. Now, does that mean we're not patrolling Green Springs well? I think we are. Can Green Springs be more effectively developed, not by chance, but by some careful planning? I think absolutely so. Thank you.
Well, I didn't live here as a child, so I don't remember Green Springs as Mr. Limbaugh did, but I have lived here for 25 years. And I remember Green Springs as it was 12 or 15 years ago. And there's been vast improvement done there since that time. $5 million of your city money has been spent on Green Springs to open it up with lighting and landscaping and make it truly a gateway into your city on the lake shore end. At the same time, the City Council has worked very hard to come up with the Green Springs Urban Revitalization District. And some people are wondering, what is that and what does that do? What it does is it keeps undesirable businesses off of Green Springs, okay? Now, some that are there, we can't put people out of business, but when they leave, we can somewhat limit what goes back. And that's why we developed, one of the main reasons we developed the Urban Revitalization District. Businesses have been cited on Green Springs for keeping their businesses cleaned. Those businesses have then been cleaned up, and that can be an ongoing process in any neighborhood, not just along the Green Springs corridor. The sign ordinance itself has been huge for this council because we no longer allow pole signs on Green Springs Highway, okay? We're in the process now, although there aren't many billboards left in Homewood, of not allowing those. We cannot control the billboards that go along the interstate because they're not ours, but we're in the process of eliminating those as they come down. So I think the council has worked to do a lot for Green Springs and put money into Green Springs. And then I will say also, the mayor's office, as well as his staff, and I know council people, have worked with developers to entice people to come to Green Springs. One of the ways we do that is by offering incentives for businesses. Those things are very often offered to people. Whether or not they take it and they see that it's worth their while is up to the private business owner. But I do know that the Mazers building has been sold, and fortunately that is in the process of being developed. And so that is one good thing that we can look forward to on Green Springs.
And thank you, Ms. Langlow. This will be the final question. We'll start with you to answer it, and then after this last question, we'll give each candidate 2 minutes to give us a closing statement, and then we'll meet our award candidates. This question, the last one, is about ethics. Have you ever been in a tough situation where you took a principled stand on differing from the views of friends, coworkers, family members, or peers? If you have, could you give us an example, or could you give us an example of someone you believe to be a good and balanced leader?
Being this is a question on ethics, I would have to say that a position that I know I found myself in my younger years, and I'm sure many of you did too, and you may find your children in this position now, and that is cheating in school. That is cheating on a test, getting the answers from your friend or for someone else, or getting the answers before the test and that sort of thing. You're cheating yourself, and that's a stand I've had to take in the past. And I stick by that with my children, and I raise them that way. And I feel like when you are facilitating your learning through another person's, that you are not doing true learning. So that would be an example that I would say. And I would have to say, fortunately, in my adult life, I have not had to take very many of those stands against other people, because most of the people that I've associated with or that I've come to know, the majority of the people are within the same moral decision and character that I am. So that has been helpful. Now, certainly you meet lots of different type of people, you have different opinions and agreements, but we all live together. So the other part about, was that it?
I think you answered both.
Okay.
One of the most negative positions you can ever be in is to lose a friend over a decision that you're convinced is the right decision, and I've experienced that. And it was while I was on the school board, and it involved the 1 penny. And I would say to you that an individual called me, not the friend, and said, our plan is to carve the penny sales tax up, 85% still to the school board, 15% to the city, but we will revisit this subject next year. And I realized at that moment in my life that the absolute wrong thing to do was carving that money up. So that's a very real personal experience. As far as leaders, I think we've had good leaders on a local level, a state level. I think in both parties. I would tell you that I think Bob Riley did an awfully good job as governor for 8 years in this state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Limbaugh. We'll start with you to give your first closing statement. 2 minutes to wrap up anything that you want to cover that we haven't touched on so far.
Sure. First, I would like to thank all of you, Dan, Ashley, all of you with the Homewood Star. I think this has been a wonderful experience. I think it's something that should happen every 4 years in the city of Homewood. I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to verbalize what we're thinking, what our concerns are. I would again say to you that my platform is things like Green Springs, things like a consistent commitment by empty board members to recruit folks, to having an updated and current strategic plan. You know, again, I can't say those things are important enough. I would also say to you that I wouldn't have brought up the penny sales tax if in my school board position I hadn't heard what I thought was substantive conversation in the last year about the possibility not of, quote, carving it up, but of capping it. And, you know, again, I don't think there's any place for that sort of situation at all. Having said that, I think that in Homewood, the skill set that I've gained over the years to take a diverse group of individuals within a business and have those folks work toward a common goal, that's the sort of thing that we can utilize in this city as well, and I'd love to be a part of that. Thank you.
I guess I should recap my platform too, because we've talked about so many different things, and that would be public safety for the entire city, strong finances for the entire city, support of our schools, and development of business in the Homewood community. But in conclusion tonight, I'd like to say I chose to run for City Council President because I feel I have the experience to lead the council, to build consensus among the council members and the neighbors and the leaders, the leadership skills that are necessary to continue to move Homewood forward, to keep it the desirable city that we all enjoy today. And I want to say it has been a privilege and a pleasure to serve the city for 12 years. It has truly been both, and I have truly enjoyed it. And you have a choice to make on the 28th of August. You may not have a bad choice or a good choice. You may have two choices, but you have a choice to make on August 28th. And I hope that when you go vote, that you will vote for me and allow me the opportunity to continue to serve this city, to continue to share my experience, and continue to build this city and move it forward. Thank you and good night.